It is time. We are gonna get started on our new table. Now, this table I built, I wanna say 5 or 6 years ago to fit our dining room space. And it's just cottonwood that I actually milled out of my cousin's yard. I cut the cottonwoods down. So this table is only 33 inches wide. It is a little taller because I put a tall skirt on there. Jamie wants to use these same legs. I turned these, they're just pine. I think she's gonna paint the base on this new table, but you can see we've got some arch in these two boards, and she wants a flat table. It's mostly flat, but it does have some movement here on the ends. And we're gonna hopefully get rid of that in the new table. And it split a little too. I was gonna fill that with resin and never got around to it, so now that just catches everything. This is the oak we have that we're gonna be making the table out of. This is currently 45 inches wide. Got a knot here, might have to address, but also might be able to flip it over and put it on the bottom or sand it or fill it with resin. And it's 10 feet long. So we might put it together and then cut it down just a hair so that it's not quite 10 feet. I don't know if Jamie wants trim around the edges. It's already 2 inches or 8/4 thickness on there, but we are gonna have to plane it a little to get some of it flat. So I'm gonna cut straight edges. You can see here, it's got gaps. These are pressed together pretty well. That's a big gap there. The clamps on this oak probably aren't going to close that gap. And then this board here has a good nibble out of it, so we might cut an inch off there. I want it to be about 40-ish inches wide, so about 7 inches wider than we currently have. Probably the most critical part of this, getting these boards to meet together well, is to get one straight edge, and then I can run it down my table saw once I have a straight edge on one side. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. They make a nice saw track that you can buy, but I found that most of those end at about 8 feet. That's about the longest you can get them. You can get extenders, but I feel like with an extender, you're gonna get some wiggle and some movement and your edge might not be as straight as you want. So this is the way I do it. I've got a 6.5 foot bubble level here, and I just, measured. And then I took the median, made sure all the lines lined up on my straight edge, and we went and ran a line down. Now I know where I can clamp this, and then we'll go ahead and cut a straight line all the way down, and then I will have one straight edge that I can start working off from and get the other side straight without having to have a fancy planer or a bunch of big equipment. I can do it all with this saw. I got a straight edge on all the boards, and now I'm just gonna go run them down my table saw. That way we can have two straight edges. And this was where things kind of started going a little bad for me. My table saw was not strong enough to run a good continuous cut on this oak. And a couple places where the grain was a little twisted, it bound up and flipped the breaker and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's a little wobbly. I need to build a big table saw with an offload table, and that's maybe somewhere down the road in the future. I did not have that available today. This is the bottom of the table. Now time to glue it up, and then we'll flatten everything out with some cross member boards that kind of squeeze everything together. So I've done glue ups with biscuit joints and tongue and groove and all kinds of stuff like that. But my favorite is probably the laziest way. I'm gonna glue these together. Then I'm gonna put some screws in on the backside to hold everything in together, kind of like a pocket screw. And then I will put some boards going across that will keep everything nice and flat and keep it from bowing as the glue up happens. This is my favorite go-to if I need something to be super sturdy. We'll come back through and smear this all around so we've got full coverage across the whole board. This glue up took a turn for the worst. Had to get creative with the clamps that I had on hand. I still need to screw it together, but ended up popping it up here. I had some boards that were warping and twisting a little more than I thought that they were. And this oak is, you know, four or 8-quarter oak is super tough. It doesn't like to bend, so trying to beat it into submission. I probably need about 6 more clamps like this, these big ones. You know, this is keeping us flat this way. It's mostly flat. There's a couple little ridges here and there that I'm gonna have to probably hand plane or sand down. This is the bottom, so doesn't matter what this looks like. I decided didn't want to plane this much out, and this has like a 1/8 inch dip in it. Probably could have planed it out okay, but I decided to just put that on the bottom and we'll be all right there. So I'm using these screws as the mechanical fasteners instead of doing any kind of joinery. This is a good day as any to start the rebuilding. I'm gonna use this square to cut this jagged edge off, and we're gonna go about 1 inch. So just squaring this right up here on this flat edge, then I'll make my mark and we'll cut it. That's gonna be our cut line. Well, let's see if I can get this thing flipped over. Each board is pretty heavy. This oak is super dense. So I'm questioning whether I'm gonna be able to move this by myself now. Came out pretty flat. With the warping and things, I did not completely get every gap nice and tight like I was hoping. Some of that's me not being very good at cutting, and some of that is the wood. This is the same stuff we used on the floors. I think Jamie wants to do a gray finish on this top, so we'll see what happens with it. I have been waiting to break this sander out for this project, so we're gonna put it through its paces and see. You guys are gonna be seeing this a lot on this channel and also on Jamie Ray Vintage, because we're gonna be trying this out and testing it on all different kinds of surfaces. All right, adapters for my hoses. Oh, I like that. That's a nice long hose there. And this one's real rubbery, so it flexes real good. Lots of pads. Oh, nice. Oh, that's going to be really good for getting in corners and details and stuff. 400 to 600 grit. And a bunch of replacement pads too. All right. Here is the actual sander. Looks like more adapters for the hose. Probably my favorite thing so far before even turning it on is it's got a really nice soft braided cord that's long. I like that it's long. All powered up, looks like it's got an on button and then a plus and a minus right here so I can adjust the speed, and we're gonna go. I'm gonna kick the vacuum on and we'll get this thing started. All right, real quick first impressions. This was the 80 grit pad. It did pretty good. It is starting to lose some of its sandpaper. This is just what they sent with it. But we got all down this first board, all the edges on this side, and started doing some of the edges. I think that's where I'm losing some of my, my grit is on these corners here. It's working very well with the vacuum. It's keeping the dust way out of the air. It's just sucking it right up. It's about 6 o'clock at night and I've been sanding for an hour. I'm surprised at how well, this is a 3x4 sanding pad, and I'm surprised at how fast it is. It cuts pretty quick with the 80 grit on there. I'm gonna shift gears. We're gonna go to some 220 and do the finish sand on here. You could bump up through the grits, but I think it's smooth enough. It's not even leaving like any real squiggles or anything with the 80 grit on there. So With the 220, I think we'll get a nice smooth finish. All the splinters are out, all the rough stuff's gone, and we're gonna get this finished sand on here.
Today and not tomorrow, there's no time to borrow. Today is a good day to live. This morning has so clear a light as any to see the horizon and the far. Excuses were 2 for a penny, but they've all gone out the window of this car. And when I feel the wind on my face.
So I messed up building my skirt. These legs are on here differently. I turned these 5-ish years ago when I built this table. So look, some kid put some gum under this table. This table's actually super sturdy, but this leg's coming loose. So I'm gonna go test it and see what happens. I might do some secret trimming on this leg and make it work the way I have the skirt now. We will see. You can see in that top left corner there, that leg is not going to sit flush on this current setup. So I'm going to have to cut out. I could pull these skirts all the way off and start over, but it's faster to just cut them by hand here. Pop this little corner out on all 4 corners, and then we can put some supports in for the leg. See if this fits up in here how Jamie wanted. She wanted it to be flush. We got 2 legs on, super sturdy. Not going anywhere. Had to build these little brackets after I did the cutouts in the corners to fit the legs. I liked the box corner, but this is a better build, a better fit. You can get a chair in between there, a wider chair in between. But built these brackets here, just cut them at 45s and drilled holes in here so that the bolts could go through. So I was all ready to go finish that table out in the garage, and Jamie informed me that she's not going out there.
It's cold. Zeb will film it so you can see what it looks like. It's like a winter wonderland outside.
We finally got some moisture, and it has cooled things off a lot. The garage is probably 45, 50 degrees. It's not bad with a jacket on, but it's nice in here. We're gonna put it right there where the old table was and move that out to the garage. Let's see if she's got the sauce to bring this table in. Let's see. Let's see the gun show.
Gun show? It's more like a dollar store water gun. I'll do what I can.
Okay, so super light top. What are your plans? And do you like it in the space?
Like my weight. Like, you and your brother had a hard time moving this, so let the record show it's not because I was weak. Okay?
Ty did the math on the white oak or the red oak. With the legs, we figured it up to be close to 500 pounds.
Yeah, it's heavy.
Like it put creases in my hand hauling it in here.
Yeah, Zeb always thinks I can lift more than I can. I was like,
well, you lifted it up off the sawhorse. I'm like, oh, she's got this.
No, I don't got this. So I'm thinking white oil wax on the top. But I might do a...
So that's gonna, if we white oil wax it, that's gonna make it similar to the lighter pieces that are in the floor.
My thought is we'll do suitcase watered down to give it a brown tone.
Okay.
And then let that dry completely and then seal it with white oil wax. To
All
make
right.
it like a medium.
Show them how many chairs you can get in there. How many little kids can you fit in?
You can fit 6.
6 on a side. It's tight.
Squishy.
It's tight. So 5 would be comfortable, right?
5 comfortably, 6 squishy. So like if you have a lot of people over, I mean.
And we do keep this pew here. We've only used it a couple times. We used to use it all the time at our other house. It was just like up against the wall, and that's the only, we didn't have chairs on that side. So the pew does fit up underneath if you got to fit like a bunch of kids or something over at the table.
So you can fit 14 squished.
Squished. I would say probably 12
comfortably.
12 comfortably. because she's stubborn and excited and refuses to wait. She's like, you don't need the drop cloth. I'm just gonna put a plate underneath it as I go along. Luckily, the floors are actually pretty sealed up and cured up, so things wipe off them easy. If we do drip, it'll be fine. Yeah, I was planning on you doing the legs as well. Rex, what is that? You gonna help? What is that, buddy? What is that? Look at you with your waggly tail, huh? Yes. What do you think of this new big table? Can you fit under there like you could under the old one?
Yeah, it's a new cave. It's a Rex cave. Yeah, so I'm using DIY's Dark and Decrepit. It's a stain and sealer all in one. I'll probably do 2 coats, let them get really dry, and then I'll milk paint. And I'm just gonna do 1 coat. Like you can see that you can just kind of put it over the top of this so that we've got similar coloration. The Dark and Decrepit has dried. I wound up doing 2 coats of it and I'm ready for milk paint. I'm using Sweet Pickens milk paint. You can actually get this by the gallon, which is nice. I just use, oops. I just use my favorite colors a lot, so I just buy it by the gallon. You do 1 part milk paint to 1 part warm water. And we're gonna use an immersion blender to mix it up. But I think I'm probably gonna clean that up first.
Yeah, you spilled a little. So Jamie was just flinging paint everywhere with this immersion blender. It was coming out the top, so we just covered it up.
Use a bigger container, it works better. It's gonna take probably like 3 coats. I could have made it thicker, but I like to do thinner coats, it's just my preference.
You get more chippiness, I think, if you do more coats.
I feel like you do, because it's water activated. I'm hoping that I've put enough of this Dark and Decrepit that it will make it chip and crackle, because the Dark and Decrepit has a built-in sealer. And don't mind this, Seb's fixing the top.
Oh yeah, there was a chip of wood. I don't know if it's from hauling it in or just different temperature here in the house, but it peeled up, so I'm gluing it back down. Should be dry before we need to seal the top. We're doing white oil wax from Sweet Pickens on the top, same as the floor.
But we're also doing a suitcase wash to kind of give it a brown color.
Yeah, she doesn't want it to be pinky at all. We've got 1 coat of milk paint on here. I don't know if you can see it, if the camera will pick it up. We're getting kind of real fine, tiny little crackle already with 1 coat on here. All right, coat number 2. I'm gonna really start seeing some changes here.
It's a good day
It's like 2 days later, we're finally getting back to the top. The bottom is actually ready to be distressed. We'll do that eventually. But we really need to get the top finished so we can eat on it.
Yeah, we've been like putting drop cloths on it and telling the kids
Eating
not
at the
to
bar.
not to get any greasy food on it.
I'm just putting like, I don't know, it's probably like 10 parts water to 1 part milk paint.
Yeah, not much.
It doesn't take much milk paint at all to make a faux stain. You want it to be pretty watery. Once that dissolves in, we're gonna put it on top and then we'll see how we like the color. If we wanna like darken it, do 2 layers, because I wanna darken the top.
We want the top to be more like this. Let me pull back so you can see what both are gonna look like.
Well, it's too light for like the chairs that we have too. Like this chair probably isn't gonna stay. I'm gonna try to get more chairs in the dark color. So
Just dip and go.
dip and go. And we don't have a drop cloth down anymore, so.
I mean, honestly, it's so thin. If you get any on the floor, we can just wipe it right back off.
So you can see already that this is gonna get us pretty close to that color.
So trying to match the hutch or closer to that. And I think we're already
Why is
winning.
this washcloth all wet?
Because I used it to wipe some things before I gave it to you.
I don't normally water the washcloth.
It wasn't that wet. It's like pretty wrung out.
But it's kind of showing where I'm stopping and starting.
Yeah, you might have to go long, steady strokes.
Well,
You know what? We'll let it dry and see. Now that it's soaked in, it's fine.
okay.
You just need to make sure you don't have any like streakies. You got to go with the grain real good. Oh, look how rich that got right here. Like now that it's absorbed down in.
Yeah, it's good.
It's really showing off that oak grain. So we're getting ready to oil wax it with the dark oil wax. We like the sheen on here. We're okay with the imperfections because we're trying to match an old busted imperfect piece over here in the back anyway. The main thing is that we want it to be sturdy and durable. So, but when we put that water mixture with the milk paint on here, it raised like a bunch of little fibers. So I just have 320 grit sandpaper and I'm just going over with my hand and then real lightly, I don't want to pull that stain up. And then I'm just rubbing
Right
back
here, it needs
over
it.
to make sure that it's smoothed it out. And it's doing pretty good. Dark oil wax, it's the magic time.
Well, yeah, oops, we've had this for a while.
Hopefully we have enough.
There's like a chunk, but I actually think it's like the plastic topper, you know, like
Oh, the little foam
what
seal.
they use to seal it with. So I'm just gonna swipe this on. I'm not gonna like wipe it off. I'm just gonna swipe it on, and then you let it sit 20 minutes, and then you buff it back. Like that's how this works. And it's gonna be real dark to begin with, and then it will lighten up with time. Like once it dries.
This seals hard like a resin.
Yeah, and actually,
Once
if
it's
we-
cured up, it gets real hard.
If we want to lighten it up, we can actually come with white oil wax over the top of this and layer it and get like a custom finish, which we might do, so we'll see. So you can see we already have a ton of really yummy crackle, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, the second coat really brought that out. It's like good little alligator crackle.
So I'm gonna come in and wet distress and get it, when you've let it sit a few days like we have, you have to get it wet, and then you gotta come back and get it wet again. Yeah, I'm gonna eat it. So I got a bowl of warm water, and I just got the whole thing just really saturated and let it sit for like a minute, and now I'm like really starting to be able to pull off some of the paint, whereas before it was just like not coming off. Now this may cause it to like chip and crackle more, which I'm here for because I want these to look super old. Like it just came off like a whole bunch right here, like chipped off. If you don't want that, then definitely don't wet distress, because when you get milk paint wet, this is what happens. And then we'll seal it once we're all done, so that way if it gets wet again, it like doesn't continue to just keep chipping over time.
I'm gonna come back and visit you once you've got this leg done how you want it.
I'm gonna be a minute because I really want it to be old and distressed, and it's gonna live at the Ray house, so it'll get distressed.
Yeah. All right, let's take a gander. So we still have the crackle. That didn't go away.
Sometimes it goes away when you like get it wet, but then when it dries, it comes right back. Which I'm actually surprised we got this much crackle over the top of Dark and Decrepit, so I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's because we did 2 coats. You can also just use farmhouse finishes, and it was originally called like safe paint, and it was made to paint on walls, and it's made to not crack and chip. If you get farmhouse finishes wet and distress it like this, sometimes you can force it, but on its own, it typically doesn't chip and crackle. But that's why I use milk paint like I want it. I don't want to use the sander in the house. I mean, we do have the one that has the unit, but it still makes a certain amount of dust no matter what you do. And if you use a sander, you don't get like the authentic looking age. Like this is a time worn look as opposed to like I busted out my sander look.
Okay, so this oil wax is sat overnight on here, and you can still see a couple shining spots where it still hasn't absorbed all the way down in. And that's okay. We're gonna put some white oil wax over the top and hopefully bring it back, because you can see how that is a little lighter on the top than this is, and we want to bring it back and hopefully get that lightness.
Next up, we're gonna do the white oil wax. This is gonna give it more protection, and it should like kind of tone the finish back, and it's not gonna be like solid white. So don't you stress. It's just gonna get down into all like the grain and stuff, and then it's gonna make it look more aged. Not grayed out, aged.
And if you saw us do the floors, which was just a few months ago, or even like a month and a half.
Gosh, it's been a month. It's not even been a month that long.
We have a video on that. We use the same oil wax on the floors.
Yeah, we have it like because we're distributors. I guess I don't know what you call it. We buy by the gallon. I'm not sure if we sell it in the gallon, but anyways, I poured in a solo cup because it's not going to take that much. And I think if we do this, then we probably won't need any more I might do one more coat of sealer, and I will have to decide whether I want to do clear oil wax or if I want to do another coat of white.
So once we wipe it back, this strip here is probably pretty close to what we'll get.
Yeah.
It'll just be sitting down in the grain and be like a faint kind of like little bit grayer, but not much.
It's just going to be more aged and not quite so like fresh new stain, and that's the goal.
How do you feel about how it's coming out now that you're kind of rubbing it in?
I love it so much. It looked like a traditional like stain, you know, that you buy at the store. Just looked like dark walnut to me, and we did so many dark walnut tops that I'm over it. But this is good, and it's not like the cheesy gray stain. You know what I'm talking about? Like the one that you've seen so much of. It's just like oxidized in the wood grain. I just love it.
All right, keep buffing.
Okay,
I gotta go plow the shop.
Okay.
And don't touch your face. You got white oil wax over your eyebrow.
Can you give me a hair tie and put my hair back?
What happened already?
Did I touch my face?
Yeah, you got a big old smear of it on your eyebrow.
Oh, yeah. So the wet distress made it crackle and chip even more, which is exactly what I wanted. There are some loose chips. So I'm just taking my sandpaper and lightly going over and removing any loose chips before I seal it. I'm not really distressing it with this. This is actually a 320, so it's not very heavy grit. And then I'm gonna clear wax. I am really glad that we were able to just do 2 coats of paint, because I feel like if I would have done 3 or 4, it would have been even harder to like get it to distress the way I want. Because this milk paint is super cracky and chippy, I'm just gonna use clear wax. I want it to continue to wear with time, and if we use a liquid top coat, it could also just make it chip and chip and chip and chip. That just happens. So clear wax, it's just gonna seal it up. I could come back later if I wanna do like a 2nd or 3rd coat, but I'm not really that fussy. I want this to get a little stained, a little aged, and look old so it fits in with the decor that I have in the rest of my house. So it's been a few week project. I am glad that we decided to do this after Christmas, because we've just kind of done it in between our life. We don't really have time to like take multiple days to just knock out something for ourselves, because we have so much to do with our work, but just a little bit each day, things get done.
Well, and you know, several snowstorms have been taking more of my time. As you saw today, I had to go plow, and we did a bunch of stuff with the kids during the winter break over Christmas and New Year's. So it was probably not our best timing to redo the table, but also the time that we had to start it, and it needed to get done.
We're gonna continue to look for chairs to like fill out the set. For now, I'm gonna do 4 on each side, because 8 is how many chairs I have. And I just love the look. I was a little bit worried when we first did it that it was gonna look too shiny and new and perfect. And I think we got a really good aged finish, and it just fits with the house. I don't like putting new pieces in and having them be like, bam, that's brand new.
Yeah, it definitely fits in.
We have a lived in look, and things just get more lived in every day. Thanks for following along with us on this journey, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Today and not tomorrow, there's no time to borrow. Today, well, something's gotta give today. It's a good day today. It's a good